You know, it's funny how there's not a single article out in the mainstream media today about the border. It was only a matter of a few months ago where you couldn't literally look at any major news site and there not be an article or somebody talking about something about the border or the wall. And now it's all about a hush money trial or the Supreme Court, this, that, or the other, or some protest about something halfway around the world. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the wall. Should this be what the wall looks like? I mean, I'm asking dead serious here because there's a question out now that I don't think a lot of people who were for the wall have asked themselves. Wouldn't you necessarily have to have 2 or 3 walls? Because once you created Fortress America and put walls all the way around it, you know, there's people living within this country that some other folks don't also want to live around. So you would have to have separate walls for them too. And wouldn't you then, by necessity, have to force some people to have kids while prohibiting other people from having kids? Because you would need to maintain a balance in society. We have sailors and soldiers and doctors and blacksmiths and engineers and scientists and bakers and all sorts of different things going on. And we have to maintain that all in a proper equilibrium. So everything would have to be mandated by government to be controlled a certain way. So the minute the wall went up, you would immediately be in basically a socialist dictatorship. Otherwise, it would collapse. I mean, what if no more blacksmiths wanted to have kids and we ran out of blacksmiths? Or nobody wanted to be a doctor, or even worse, maybe all of the bakers, maybe all they want to do is have kids. And so that all you have is just generation after generation of bakers, but no scientists, no engineers. You see, we got this land that we live in through basically manifest destiny. The idea of just pushing people off and pushing people off to the west until we extinguish them. And then we created a culture of our own. Well, now we've run out of space, and a lot of people have run out of interest in creating that culture for another generation. This is battlefield of the mind stuff. I'm going to try to get through the rest of this video. I know my voice is starting to come back a little bit, but it's just kind of tenuous. Over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, breaking news alert, brand new video. Just posted a couple hours ago talking about this issue and how life has changed so much just since the 1980s. And a lot of people who have this idea of walling off America have forgotten something. That how we got here, how we got to this point right now in this country, wasn't planned. It wasn't planned. It's just been one adaptation after another adaptation after another adaptation. Because England didn't create this map and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to send settlers. And in the first 50 years, this is how far we'll be. And then another 100 will be there. And then another 150. It wasn't a plan. Nobody had a plan. They just came here and just kind of did whatever, didn't they? But once again, we're not going to get too far into that here because there's things that we would have to talk about that we can only talk about over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year, fully refundable, first 90 days, no questions asked. Excuse me, sorry about that. First 90 days, fully refundable, no questions asked, partnering with Vimeo, partnering with Patreon. We can take the gloves off and tell the real truth. Now, here's the big story. The big story that everybody needs to pay attention to. U.S. births, this is 25 April 2024 from RT. U.S. births reached 45-year low. Americans are having far fewer babies for a large number of reasons. Now, in that first sentence, there's actually a psyop. Americans are having far fewer babies for a large number of reasons. Where's the psyop in that? Hey, ladies, how many of you out there had babies some years ago for no reason whatsoever? How many of you out there, and how many do you know that went out there so many years ago when we were young and didn't really have a plan on creating a baby that night? But guess what happened? One thing led to another. People got together and people had babies. It wasn't a plan. You see, that's the assumption here. The assumption in this article is that whatever we were doing long ago to plan to have families, we're not doing now. That wasn't the case. You see, there's a lot of things that have interfered with the natural course of events that create babies, that create families. But as far as a plan, there was no plan. There was no plan. The plan was to go out with the guys and shoot some pool and talk to the ladies and have a few drinks. And abracadabra, babies. All my military guys out there, how many of you have met a girl who was in the military with you? And, that little bit of chemistry happened. You maybe had that one moment where you could kind of sneak away. And then all of a sudden, 6 years down the road, 7 years down the road, you're at an anniversary dinner and you're wondering how you got there. See, that was the magic. That's kind of what I think America has lost, is this idea of that magic. And sometimes that magic happens in places that, aren't so socially acceptable. Pardon my voice there. And with everything being so microscopically analyzed these days online, every place you go, everything you do, every decision you make, sometimes all that spontaneity just gets thrown away. And to my mind, that is something that you can't replace with any amount of planning. Now, there's a group out there that has thrived on that. And it started a long time ago. And some of us warned about it. This whole arranging of how things should be in this, it ain't going to work out well. It ain't going to work out. But once again, we can't really talk about that. But one final point before my voice goes away here on this. A lot of people have come to this channel and said, Florida Mucky, some of the things you say, I kind of agree with, and the Antarctica stuff is cool, but sometimes you talk about socialism in a way that is just seems inaccurate. Maybe you haven't seen this or that other example from 50 or 100 years ago in some other country somewhere. And that's proof that all socialism always fails because of this one event so many years ago. It's called anecdotal evidence. Well, if money is the judge, if the rule of success is that whatever gets you wealthy, rising tide lifts all boats, isn't that the big argument of capitalists? If that's the case, then we should be following the model of the Saudi royal family. We should go right past capitalism, and we should go right to theocratic dictatorship. And that's what this is. And the Saudis make Elon Musk and Bill Gates look like the hired help. The Saudis are 18 times as rich as the royal family. They have super yachts that have snow rooms in them. That's right. Not mansions. They have yachts that you can go out and you can sit on the deck of the yacht and you can get some sun, and then you can go inside and you can go in the room where they have snow. Gold-plated supercars. They're worth trillions and trillions of dollars. So if money is the answer, and money is the judge, then let's just do what the Saudis have done. Let's just create a theocratic dictatorship based on wealth. Because isn't that the argument of capitalism versus socialism? Well, this makes everybody hyper rich. I mean, I live in a country now that there's been capitalism in the United States my whole life, but there's always been slums. There's never been a time in my life, I'm 54 years old, never been a time in my life where the south side of Chicago wasn't a slum. Never been a time in my life where Detroit was a nice place to live. I heard about years ago, before I was born, decades before, that those places were almost tolerable. But there's always been poor areas of the country, way out in the country, and rich areas way out in the country. I've heard of suburbs that were poor and suburbs that were wealthy. And I've heard of urban areas that were both poor and wealthy. Both have existed always. But I think this is the key that we have to really think about, is that this country was not a plan. So to say that we need to plan for walls and plan for fortresses, and that, well, if you don't have a boundary, you don't have... Ask these people. Ask your founding fathers. They didn't have boundaries. This was the United States, 1783. If you would have asked them where the boundary was, they would have pointed kind of toward the western sky, and they'd say, oh, it's kind of over there-ish somewhere. But it floated all over the place. 1803, now it's over here. 1845, 1848. So, just saying. But once again, love to have you at the Patreon channel. $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year. Fully refundable first 90 days, no questions asked. Gloves off. Brand new video over there amongst hundreds of others never before seen on YouTube. God bless all of you who have signed up. Thank you so much. You're making a huge difference standing in the gap right now. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.